Good morning. We continue our talks on the knowledge of the self. Now, we have given a small introduction earlier. Now, let's get into the real part. Now, why this self knowledge is required is because we have, as I have already said, we as a human being required to know, we are required to know the outer world and as well as the inner world. There are two worlds. The emphasis for most of the people is to know about the outer world, right from our school days till the death. But the inner world has been given a very little attention. Now, since that is lacking, now this purpose of this video is to expose the listeners to the at least some tip of the inner knowledge. To whatever extent possible, I will be able to tell you something about it. So it's agreed that we should have a knowledge of the self. Now, why that knowledge is required and why can't we remain with the outer knowledge in the outer world alone? Is it not sufficient? Maybe the question. Now, as we see the evolution, you see the ladders of evolution and the evolution of man into a being of a higher knowledge, from where he can go still higher to the extent of merging himself with the nature itself. See, that is the idea. The evolution doesn't stop anywhere. It is a full circle. It's a full circle. Starting from one cell onwards, we have come the circuitous route of upgrading ourselves from one cell to two cells and to one, like that, multiple cells, and then the being, the plants, the animals, and all that. And ultimately, we have come to the stage of a human being where we have the highest sense with six senses and the absolute freedom to do whatever we desire. So this is the top of the evolution cycle, and what is remaining is to go back in the sense complete the circle. A circle can be completed only if the dot, from starting from the dot and going in a circuitous way, circle, and then going and rejoining the dot itself, then the circle is complete. So here what we say is that we have started from the nature. We started from the nature, and our journey should be in such a way that we go and end up with the nature itself. That is the idea, logical, and maybe even scientific after some time. A circle, a wheel, is a hole in this world. We know that. The industrial evolution came only about the discovery of the wheel and its uses, and it has multiplied 1,000 lakhs of times, and now we are in a position where we are now with an advanced technology. So we have to, as part of the cycle of revolution, we have to go back to the place where we started from. But since we had been given the absolute freedom, we have we utilized that freedom to achieve what is expected of the human beings and lead a life of happiness and joy in this world. Now, in front of us we have the flora and fauna, as they call it, that is the plant world and the animal world and human beings. These three are the ones which are occupying this entire earth. When we look at the plant world and when we look at the animal world, we find they live in unison with the nature. None of them seem to go against nature. There are differences among them in their structure, in their makeup, and the way they live and all that, but still they live in unison with the nature, and there is no contradiction whatsoever in their life at all. They are born, they grow, they wither away, they die. A process. That's all. It's a similar case with human beings also. We are born, we grow, we die, over. But as compared to these two worlds and our world, we find that they live in perfect harmony with each other, while we live in perfect disharmony among us. Isn't it? Our life is loaded with conflicts, contradictions, misery, vengeance, violence, and whatnot. And this has been the case for centuries. This is a case of human beings where for centuries we have, maybe the percentage is relative, it is different. Maybe that at that time maybe 60% we lived in harmony, but today we maybe around 30% or something. So the percentage is different, but the negativeness has overtaken the positivity of the human nature. And today we live in a world where we do not know whether the next second will be prosperous or utter chaos and confusion, or the end of it. We do not know. Maybe the end of the world may occur the next second. Possible, because to destroy the entire earth we have stockpiled enormous amount of nuclear arms, which are nothing but just a trigger away from operation, and once it is launched the entire earth will come to a close. This is how now we are living. We are just 1 minute away from all pervading death of all the people in the earth. This is because we have used our knowledge to the extent of going against the nature and creating products which are bound to destroy our own race. You see, if we see animals, they live in harmony, and there are about 84 lakhs of living creatures in the world. That has been estimated that way. They live in harmony. In fact, they don't, maybe some exceptions are there, but they don't fight with each other. They do not conduct wars on a large scale. They don't use weapons and instruments to destroy the opposite race. They don't kill their own race, isn't it? They don't kill their own race. An ant doesn't kill its own race of ants. Maybe some fish here and there, they eat their own fish. That is these are all exceptions. But on the whole, when you look at it, at the animal world, none of the animals, they don't kill their own race at all. They have differences among them. They have different varieties among them. But they do not have divisions among them. And the best thing is they do not kill their own race at all. The plants do not kill their own race. They are perfect in harmony with their own race. Or they do not fight with the other species of trees and flowers or plants. There is absolutely no contradiction. That is nature. See, one thing what we should understand, all of us, is nature has given us the right and ways and means to live in harmony. And nature expects us to live in harmony. Otherwise, there is no other way, because you see, if nature wanted, it could have been that way, that the creation could have been done with a single race. Single race, nothing else. But there is a multiplicity of races, multiplicity of different types of living creatures, but they still live in harmony. But as far as man is concerned, he is the only race, only only living creature who kills his own race, isn't it? Lakhs and lakhs of people are being killed all over the world for centuries because you want to win over them, take possession of their land, make them slaves, these sort of things. Because you think that you are the most powerful, knowledgeable, superior, and all that. All the superlatives you can describe. That is what the intention of all those kings and all that who were there. They were thinking about themselves. Just for imagination, if at all a king thinks that he is no better than any other human being, would have attempted to kill people, make wars and kill the people? The ego, built by his power and wealth and superiority in race, has made him to do so. They kill lakhs of people. And take into account the entire generation after generation. Those days the kings were there. Thereafter the leaders came, and each country fought against the other, wanting to win over the other lands. And in the process they killed. The man, because of his ego, he thought he is the supreme power, he is a leader, he is a special type of race, and so he wanted to kill the other race. Hitler killed about a million people and subjecting people to an enormous amount of misery. In Vietnam it happened, in Cambodia it happened, in Sri Lanka it happened, in Europe it happened, in Middle East it happened. Everywhere it has happened. They kill their own people for some reasons. Some reasons which are not valid, which are stupid in fact. So man is the only race which kills his own race. Now can we say that man is a superior living being because of this trait? In fact, taking this particular quality of man, the human mind as such, if we take that particular quality, we should be placed at the bottom of the evolution. We should be placed at the bottom of the evolution. Isn't it? So there is something wrong with the human beings. There is something wrong with the human beings. That is what the elders say. What is the problem in the world? What are the problems in the world? The problem in the world is nothing other than human beings. That is what the elders say. They are the people who found out where the problem lies. And despite all our science and technology and advancement, we have not found out where the problem lies. We have conveniently omitted to look in that direction. Rather, if we go on breaking the matter into pieces and go on trying to find out what is existing. And ultimately, you came to the conclusion where the physicists themselves said there is nothing in the universe. Nothingness is the most prevalent thing in the universe. After having they broke their head. They wanted to find out the matter, ultimate reality, and ultimately they came to the conclusion that there is nothingness is the universe. Anyway, that is for science and all that. But let us see how. You see, the problem in the world is caused by the man. He is the one who is responsible. They say in criminal language, there is a culpable homicide. And the man has been committing this culpable homicide for centuries, without any iota of guilt. So the cycle continues. The human race is living along in this pattern, in this fashion for centuries, and now we are at a stage where we live in such a comfort which cannot be imagined in any previous generation. We live in such a comfort and luxury, but we have not changed as a human being at all. A human being who was existing hundreds of years back. with all your negative qualities and negative emotions, we continue to remain the same human being with the same amount of negative qualities, negative emotions. There is not a minute change in the human being's attitude and approach. Not a minute. Why it has happened like that? The growth has to be from ignorance to knowledge. The growth in the outer world is from ignorance to knowledge. We go on finding out the true reality and everything. Go on finding, go on climb the ladder, and ultimately you find out what is the truth in the outer world. But it does not happen in the inner world. It does not happen. It has not been even attempted by the majority of the population. Leaders. Religions showed some way, but they have also conveniently put people in a shackle, and then they have not allowed them to go forward in enhancing their own inner knowledge, except possibly a few. Otherwise, it is a closed circuit. Religion is a closed circuit. You cannot go out of it. You should not. In fact, that the relative freedom to operate in a religion exists only in a particular religion, not in other religions also. That is a totally a closed circuit or an iron curtain or something, whatever it is. They call it iron dome. Religions are iron domes. So that is how it is. The human race has not developed itself, and we continue to do so because for want of self-knowledge. Now this is the reason why self-knowledge has assumed much importance so that man can transform himself, upgrade himself in the inner world, and start living as a human being, which is expected of him from the nature. Nowhere else. Nobody expects. None of you are bothered, none of the people are bothered about how you are growing and all that. But the nature expects you to come back to it. Live in perfect harmony with the nature and the existence as a whole. That is what nature wants. So the ladder what we want to climb, climb to gain the knowledge of the inner is going to be the first step. So that is how the knowledge of the self is important. Because as we are supposed to be one with a higher sense, the sixth sense, as one who has been given the absolute freedom by the, I will not say the word God, because the word God, it creates a different connotation, different meaning, different figure, different manifestation, and so many things. So if we use the word God as a creator upon the entire universe, it gives a different picture, and there are a lot of contradictions. So instead of using the word God, let us use the word called Supreme Intelligence. Supreme Intelligence. Now it is neutral. It doesn't denote any God at all. It is it's an ultimate intelligence in the world. So nobody can question it. So Supreme Intelligence is the best word to be used in place of God, and we will continue to use that as one. Because why Supreme Intelligence? Because the intelligence is unsurmountable, which no one has got. The creation, if you look at it, in the earth has got 84 lakhs of species, plant world, and all is living creatures, the way they have been designed, the way they are operating, the way they live, the way the human beings are designed, how the inner parts of the human body performs, functions, and takes care of itself, multiplied by 84 lakhs. Enormous, wondrous. You just cannot imagine. It is beyond the imagination of anybody as to how the creatures, living creatures, including human beings, work. A complicated design, a complex design, which operates by itself without any assistance from you, me, and anybody. That should have been done by a supreme intelligence only, isn't it? Because whatever is happening in the world there is a cause and effect theory. The cause and effect theory, where there is a cause, and that's why there is an effect. Without a cause, there cannot be any effect at all. That's why the cause and effect theory is there. So anything has to be produced, anything which has to be created, there is something behind it which does the creation. That is how it is. Even anything has to move. That thing has to be given a bit of energy. That is, an action is required to move that. So a cause is required for getting an effect. So that is why the cause and effect theory wins over all the other theories. Now that way, take the entire, the earth as a whole, with all its, human beings and animals and plants and all that, with its complex design and complex life and all that. Is it not acceptable that behind this design there is a creator? And that is nothing but a supreme intelligence. If I say creator, again it denotes somebody. So instead we say a supreme intelligence. The supreme intelligence has created this entire world as such. And it has designed it in such a way they operate individually with a particular set of rules. You see, any machine is designed, and the machine, to operate that machine, for the machine to function, it has to follow certain rules, certain inputs, whatever it is. So it is required. So the same way, for the universe to function, for the human beings to function, for the animals to function, for the plant world to function, there are certain set of rules which are designed. And if they live accordingly, then there is no disorder, there is no disharmony. It is perfect. But if you if you abandon those rules, then it becomes misery, tragic. So what is expected of, the plants, the animals, they live according to the rules which has been put in place by the Creator, by the Supreme Intelligence. They work, they live, there is no contradiction. But when we have an absolute freedom to do whatever we want, there only the question comes that we overrule the rules and we live according to our own mind. Because human beings are the ones which have been given the extra facility called mind. And that mind is independent. It has got the capacity to think. It has got the capacity to mislead you. It has got the capacity to conceal the truth. So when we have an absolute freedom to function, and we have an added facility in the form of mind, the human beings are expected to rule the world and live harmoniously, live happily, and live joyously. But the key is with you. The key is with you. Either you operate the key and go in the right direction, or you operate the key and go in the wrong direction. That is with you. That is with us, right? And what we have been doing is, we have been going in the wrong direction. Despite the fact the elders have pointed out that what you are doing is wrong, you are supposed to go in the right direction. Right means not, virtue and all that, but with the knowledge of you, you should know yourself and then proceed to live. That is what the elders said. So the freedom that has been given to us, the mind which has been given to us, is an enormous facility which the human beings are enjoying as compared to any other living creature. So it is incumbent on our part to utilize this, the freedom as well as the mind, to live a life of harmony with all the other human beings. That is what is expected. If we assume that all of us live with the same amount of love and compassion for all the human beings, will there be a conflict in the world? Will there be a conflict in our society? Will there be a conflict within the family? Because we have ultimately come to that place, come to the situation where even families do not exist with one among each other. We have come to that situation where a family is restricted to a husband and wife and children. The multiplicity in the family has gone because of the wrong path taken by the West, whose primary purpose is to achieve scientific advancements and make wealth. The primary purpose of West is that. But in the East, it is not that way. They know what is wealth. It is not the outer world which gives the wealth, but it is the inner world which gives the wealth. And that wealth only is responsible for making us live happily and all. But that's what, you see, despite the advancement in science and technology, and despite the status of the most developed nation and so many things and all that, do you think that people in the West are living happily? Despite all the wealth and comforts and concerns? 40% of the people are living on depression, prescription drugs. Without chemicals, they cannot live. They eat prescription drugs. Is it a sign of development? Is it the development which we as underdeveloped countries or developing countries to follow? No. Never. Fortunately, we have a treasure in the form of the teachings by our elders, which has given the entire scope for man to develop himself and live happily. Fortunately, it is with us, and it is there for centuries. That is how we as a country was the leader in the human race. And every other country wanted to come to India and to learn things, or they wanted to come to India. It has taken different forms, and we know the history, what has happened. So the human beings are designed to live in a very happy and joyous frame of mind, but it has happened the other way. Only a knowledge of the self is going to reverse this journey and make us to live again in a different way, in the proper way, in the prosperous way. Prosperous not in the means of wealth, inner happiness. That is a knowledge of the self is required. If the knowledge of the self, if the self-knowledge has been taught to us from childhood onwards, we will not have any of these conflicts happening in the society now. But it is not that way. It is not that way. Despite possessing such a huge treasure of wealth in the form of teachings by our elders of yesteryears, we have omitted, or we are forced to omit. And the people of your generation, the younger generation, do not even know that they exist, because they have been overtaken by the glamorous West, where nothing other than wealth counts, where nothing other than the monetary wealth counts. That is how it is. So let the younger generation, with all these inputs, have a sort of inducement or provocation in your minds to go and search for what is the knowledge of the self. If we do that, then we are in the right path. And to do that, I will be of little help to you to give you some guidance as to how to go about it. And remember, the paths to the knowledge of the self is different. They are different. It is not a single entry point. Multiple entries are there. But the way we live now, the youngsters live, they do not have enough time to go through that various entry points, because they are arduous, they are tough, they are difficult, and they require a lot of your time. And I don't think none of the younger generation has got that sort of time to go through these hardships. It is just next to impossible. But at the same time, you can't have it as a part-time job. You you require your full attention to do that, which is impossible for the younger generation. So what is the alternative way is to have a perfect understanding of what you are, which doesn't require much of physical hardship, which does not require to devote a huge amount of time. So once you get that perfect understanding from whatever has been said and propagated by the elders to travel in this particular path of self-knowledge, you will be a full human being and you will be able to live your life very happily and face the life. See, the difficulty with the younger generation is they have not been taught as to how to face a life. They have been groomed in such a way they come excellent, in excellence in academics, education and all that. But they have not been taught as to how to face how to face a life and live for the next 40, 50 years in this world, facing the life. Because life is not that simple. It comes loaded with so much of problems, so much of unexpected happenings and events, which will make you to, do something which is harmful for you. So the life has to be faced. Because the life, it is not full of, with the wealth acquired in the external world, you are not going to live happily. That is one basic point everybody should understand. You need a wealth, okay. To the extent you have to live comfortably, that's all. But that will not give you the satisfaction and calmness and peacefulness in your mind at all. It will not come. So instead of totally depending on the outer vacation, you should be able to devote your time to some extent, to the extent of developing your inner knowledge and start living with this life. To that extent, we will travel together to find out how to go about it, because the path has been opened by great people like J. Krishnamurti, Osho, Ramana, and so many masters. So all these masters have shown us the way. So we will de-link. They have already de-linked. The elderly people, the masters whom I say, like J.K. Osho and Valala and Ramana and all that, they have already de-linked spirituality from this aspect of human living. Their teaching is based entirely on living, the human living, and to ultimately reach the complete circle and go back to the point where we came from. There is absolutely no spirituality, no religiosity, nothing of the sort involved in the teachings. So the younger generation need not be sort of allergic to this sort of listening to this sort of teachings, because they are totally de-linked from spirituality. Maybe they are living in the background, but we are not going to touch that at all totally, and we are going to concentrate entirely on the human being only, and the way the approach to life. Let's see in the next video. Thank you very much.